Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Obviously, this is not the setup for this is not the setup for doing the senior play that we expected when we started rehearsing this play together in January. But I am really proud of this group of seniors. The way that this schedule has fallen, this is, I believe, the last academic thing that they're doing before they officially graduate. And I've really enjoyed working with them, most of them since they were 8th graders, and I couldn't be more proud of them. This isn't sort of the ideal vision of how we would present this play to you, but I hope that you will enjoy the story. A couple of, or just really one suggestion for how to best view the play. If you look on your screen, in the Zoom webinar screen, up at the top right-hand corner, there's a button. It says either speaker view, or you can switch between speaker view and gallery view. If you click on gallery view, make it to gallery view, you'll see a bunch of different tiles. One of them will be me, and then we'll have all the other character names. If you hover over a tile that has one of the other character names, it has 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner. Select hide non-video participants, and that should switch it to be that you just see one big screen with my face. I'll be going away soon, and once the show begins, this way you'll be able to see a good view of just the characters that are on stage, as it were, and acting. So without further ado, please enjoy Persuasion.
More tea, Lady Russell?
Not Elizabeth. 1 cup to steady, a second for argument. I think it wise we hold counsel without Sir Walter this morning.
Father, I think, reads the Elliot history in the baronetcy so he may better understand the extent of our acreage.
Your father's steadfast interest in family never flags. His attention to practical matters is less certain. How is your Charles, Mary?
Very well, I suppose. I might have found a husband who liked a wife as well as a hunt. Certainly I wish I possessed his health and constitution.
Nonsense. You are as well as needs to be. Where is Anne?
Is she necessary to our conversation?
While she is not your command, Elizabeth, you would find Anne once solicited to have quite a sensible turn of mind.
Will we be long?
I know your children demand you at Uppercross, but I would ask you not to fidget, Mary.
Leave me, Lady Russell. I had taken down my diary and did not hear your carriage.
Husband is not found in a book.
Is that not where all the best husbands exist?
Well, I have not come to speak of husbands. Elizabeth, who as eldest presides here at Kellynett Hall, as her dear mother would have wished, has let it drop that your father grows distressed for funds.
He would tell you himself, Lady Russell, that he would consider such conversation prejudicial to his ancestry.
Your father is my friend of many years, but has, I think, some vanity of person and place. Also, he would not tell such a thing, for I am sure he does not know it. If Anne had not a head for figures, we would not know it either.
It was first my concern, while Anne merely added the columns.
It's very warm here.
We do grow in debt, and it would be vain to conceal it longer.
When Lady Elliot lived, there had been moderation and economy, which just kept him within his income. But with her died all such right-mindedness. He gave me some hints of this last spring in town.
He quite clearly asked me if we could retrench, and I, of course, in the first ardor, set seriously to think what could be done.
Father can be so difficult.
Hush, Mary. I propose 2 branches of economy: to cut off unnecessary charities and to refrain from refurnishing the drawing room.
Very good, Elizabeth. But however fine those measures are in themselves, I would suppose them insufficient to the real extent of the problem.
Neither father nor I can devise any means of lessening expenses without compromising his dignity or relinquishing our comforts in a way to be borne.
But may we not have to bear more?
What more might be suggested?
Might you not mortgage some part of the land?
Without compromising income, there is only a small acreage he might dispose of. I am assured he would never condescend to sell whole. No, he would never disgrace his name so far. The Kellynett estate must be transmitted whole and entire as he received it. Kellynch must be let, my dears. It is, I think, the only solution, and we must rally his lawyer, Mr. Shepherd, to convince him of it.
What? Every comfort of life knocked off? Journeys, London, servants, houses, table contractions, and restrictions everywhere? To live no longer with the decencies even of a private gentleman, I would sooner quit Kellynch Hall than remain in it on such disgraceful terms.
Quite the thing.
Is it?
Sir Walter means to let Kellynch. He sees to the heart of the matter at once. To let is far better, as retrenching is simply undignified.
Very good indeed.
My judgment is as the lady stated.
Resolved, Sir Walter, as you say. Now, as to a new residence, are there not 3 alternatives? London, Bath, or another estate in the country?
Speak no more. It shall be London without a doubt.
Well,
What?
London, I think, is...
not what it has been. Sir Walter, it is quite overrun with tradespeople trying to rise through marriage. Mary is, of course, safe as a married woman, but Anne and Elizabeth would be exposed to all manner of quite unsuitable people.
But London.
very expensive, hard to maintain the necessary dignity at 3 times the price.
So you suggest Bath? Is he not perceptive of all things? He prefers Bath, for there he may maintain a suitable establishment at comparatively little expense.
But see here.
I do see. I see your point exactly. Bath is only 50 miles from Kellynch, and I will be quite available to you as I winter there. What a figure you will cut in Bath society! You will be a veritable lion in Bath, sir.
Will I?
Without question. You will rule as Charles II did. Now we must turn our minds, Lawyer Shepherd, to a desirable tenant for Kellynch.
Indeed, I must take leave to observe, Sir Walter, that the present junction is much in our favour. This peace will be bringing all our rich naval officers ashore and wanting a home.
Naval officers, did you say?
Well, if a rich admiral were to come our way, Sir Walter...
He would be a very lucky man, Shepherd. A prize indeed would Kellynch Hall be to him.
He would look around him and bless his good fortune.
The Navy is a very desirable tenant. Everything in and about the house would be taken care of. Gardens, shrubberies, all given the best attention.
Were I to let, I have by no means decided on the privileges I would confer. I'm not fond of the idea of my shrubberies being so approachable. What knows the Navy of shrubberies?
The Navy, who've done so much for us, have at least an equal claim with any other set of men to all the comforts and privileges which any home can give.
The profession has its utility, but I should be sorry to see any friend of mine belonging to it. 2 points of the profession are offensive to me. First, it brings persons of obscure birth into undue notice, and secondly, it cuts up a man's youth and vigor most horribly, exposed to every climate and every weather till they are not fit to be seen.
Have a little mercy on the poor man, Sir Walter.
Surprisingly, before even our meeting, I have application from Admiral Croft of Somersetshire, who, having acquired a very handsome fortune, was wishing to start in his own country.
What? Before a decision has been made to let?
Well, a general wanting more than a specific one.
I do not wish the neighbors to gossip on my fortune.
Indeed not. But I have met the man, and you would think him a very handsome gentleman.
And who does this Admiral Croft consider himself to be?
A rear admiral distinguished in the Trafalgar action, stationed in East Indies since.
Then I take it for granted that his face is about as orange as the tail feathers of my chickens.
Quite the gentleman in all his actions and behaviours. Married without children, always a benefit to the furniture. Mrs. Croft, well spoken and genteel. Sister to a gentleman who lived among us once at Monkford, I believe. Ugh, I shall forget my own name soon.
You mean Mr. Wentworth, I suppose?
The very name, curate at Monkford, was he not?
You misled me by the term gentleman. Thought you were speaking of a man of property.
Indeed, he was not the curate of Monkford, but as Captain Frederick Wentworth, a naval officer, made commander, I believe, in consequence of his action off St. Domingo.
Wentworth, eh? Quite a different matter. Did I know the man?
We knew him, yes.
Friend of Admiral Baldwin, perhaps. Baldwin now was the most deplorable-looking personage imaginable. A nose unparalleled. I never saw quite so wrecked an example of what a seafaring life could do. It's a pity sailors are not knocked on the head before they reach Baldwin's age. Hold on, I do remember Wentworth.
You will excuse me, gentlemen. This is not the behavior I would expect. 8 years have passed, and it will be no trouble to see the gentleman in civil settings.
I was taken by surprise.
You took my counsel, Anne, and did not throw yourself away at 19 on a young man who had nothing but himself to recommend him. No hope of affluence but in the chances of a most uncertain profession.
He has risen to captaincy.
Since your mother's death, you have relied on me. Has the gentleman in all this time attempted to renew your acquaintance?
He is not.
Such a liaison, as hardly capable of success as its onset, is now not to be thought of. Your father at the time viewed such a rash association with great astonishment, great coldness, and great silence. You surely do not wish to tax him with upsets when he must leave Kellynch.
Of course not.
Well said. Men do not remember as women do, Anne. We have small room in our thoughts. Men have the wider world of position, battles, and gold to drive away the past. We go to Bath in the winter, where you will find gentlemen in numbers. Are you composed?
I am.
We must rejoin your father.
He has not thought of me in these 8 years. I must submit to another lesson in the art of knowing our own nothingness beyond our own circle.
You may believe, Sir Walter, no ship of the line shall have such scrutiny or care as your Kellynch. Is it not so, Mrs. Croft?
Quite as you say, Admiral. The grounds, the house, the furniture, what great pleasure.
And the shrubbery shall not be touched, Sir Walter.
We thank you for your consideration, Miss Anne, and you, Miss Anne. Beyond our thanks. Kellynch will be my care of every moment. Goodbye.
I declare
Goodbye.
him without hesitation the best looking sailor of my experience. And I go so far as to say that if my own man might have the arranging of his hair, I should not be ashamed to be seen with him anywhere.
And this all but immediate. as August declines and the Crofts must have possession before Michaelmas.
As Sir Walter wishes to settle in Bath, without delay, I believe you, Anne.
I cannot possibly do without Anne, as Charles has not a firm hand on the children, and my health has been quite delicate.
Well, Anne will not be necessary for the securing of a house, but I am quite capable.
It is settled then. Anne will stay in our home at Uppercross for the time.
It will suit me, Anne, for I have engagements that must take me from Kellynch for several weeks, and then I will convey you to Bath after Christmas. It is, I think, a fine thing that Mrs. Clay, Mr. Shepherd's daughter, has been engaged to go to Bath as a most important and valuable asset to Elizabeth in all the business before her.
Mrs. Clay, could not I be of use?
It is quite beneath you, Anne, and Mary has great need of you.
But
Mrs. Clay has freckles, a projecting tooth, and a clumsy wrist. I can hardly imagine how father bears looking at her.
She is pretty enough, in her own way. I grant her an acute mind and pleasing manners. It will be perfect distraction for her, as she has only emerged from mourning.
And if she sets her cap for father, she has lost a husband and might seek another.
Really, Mary, I cannot conceive how such an absurd suspicion could have occurred to you.
Mrs. Clay never forgets who she is, Mary.
And as to father, I really should not have thought that he who has kept himself single so long for our sakes need be suspected now. He is not a man to have his head turned by a freckle.
Mrs. Clay, I am sure, may assist in Bath to the family's perfect safety.
But she is the daughter of a lawyer, who would never be admitted to father's company any other way but this. Who was to advise that she's not a fortune hunter?
Honestly, Mary, I have a great deal more at stake on that point than anybody else. I scarcely need you advising me. There will be a house arranged in Bath, and Mrs. Clay can attend to father's small wants.
You forget, Mary, that I am the lion at the gate. Are your arrangements satisfactory, Anne?
of course.
We are now in Uppercross.
So you are come at last to Uppercross. I began to think I should never see you. I am so ill I could hardly speak.
Sorry to find you unwell. You sent me such a good account of yourself on Thursday.
Yes, I made the best of it. I always do. But I am very unfit to be left alone. Suppose I were to be seized of a sudden and in some dreadful way and not be able to ring the bell.
It would be very terrible. And how is Charles?
Out shooting as always. He would go, though I told him how ill I was.
And your neighbours at the great house? The Musgroves, of course, and the Miss Musgroves as well. Charles always speaks well of his family.
Oh, but they ought to call upon you as soon as possible. Surely they feel what is due you as my sister. However, we may as well go and sit with them a little while, and when we have got that over, we can enjoy our walk.
Penelope Musgrove, so very good you have come to visit.
We are the Miss Musgroves.
Henrietta.
And Louisa. You will find us quite agreeable.
Mary's man about town. Charles, don't you know?
I hate sending the children to the great house, for grandmamma humours and indulges them to such a degree, and gives them so many sweet things, that they are sure to come back sick and cross for the rest of the day.
Oh, Miss Anne, we are so glad you have come to visit Uppercross. Lady Russell has written of your skill and firmness with children. To be sure, Mary has no such method at home, and in general they are so spoiled. I can only keep them in tolerable order by giving them more cake than is good for them.
We are so pleased with you, Miss Elliot. You seem such a sensible person. We quite adore Mary, of course, but perhaps you could hint that it would be better if she were not so tenaciously forward.
It has been noticed by many persons.
Talk my Mary into a bit of health, eh? If the heroine in her novel is so consumptive, she catches it herself the next morning.
Oh dear.
Well, I'm sure you found the Musgrove girls much as I mentioned. They are climbers, but pretty, I give them that. Oh, I spoke to Admiral Croft's lady today. They have taken over Kellynch with true naval alertness. And Mrs. Croft says she is to be visited by her brother, Captain Wentworth. Is he not known to us? Louisa and Henrietta are in a frenzy, as they have heard him very handsome. He is to arrive tomorrow, and we are invited by the Crofts to dine. But how am I to go with my little Thomas to be kept in bed after his fall? It is so unfair.
I should like it very much if you were to leave Thomas in my care.
A very good thought, very good indeed. But you will miss meeting the captain, though one captain is like another. I may as well go, for I am no use at home, am I? I should shut myself up forever with that child. I should not be able to persuade him to do anything he did not like. Charles! Charles! Anne has asked to stay at home and care for Thomas. Now, it is Anne's own proposal, and so I shall go with you.
Been driven to it, have you? Well, I dare say you've the best of the bargain.
Had he wished to ever see me again, he need not have waited until this time.
Very, very agreeable music, singing, laughing, and all one might wish. Captain Wentworth had charming manners, no shyness or reserve, and the Musgrove girls sat at his feet like acolytes. He is coming today to shoot with Charles, and you may see him from the window.
Hello, hello. Only come for my dogs. Wentworth asked if I come ahead, as he proposes to run in for a moment, if quite convenient.
How wonderful! Of course he may. I shall be delighted to receive him. Pinch your cheek, sister. You look quite pale.
Just at the gate. He's a quick one, the captain. Come along, Captain. I'll just loose the hounds.
I could tell he liked my company, as he sat near me for quite some time. This way, Captain Wentworth. It is best to receive sitting, I think. Ah, there you are, sir, stolen from the hunt.
Good morning, Mrs. Charles. I wish to thank you particularly for allowing a tongue-tied sailor to practice his conversation last evening.
No such thing. We did love hearing about your ships. This is my sister. You may have met her in your previous visit in Somersetshire. I was at school at the time and thus denied the pleasure of your acquaintance.
Very glad, Miss Elliot.
Yes, a pleasure.
You visit your sister, I see?
Yes, until the winter, and then I'll go to my father in Bath.
Ah.
Yes.
Your home here at Uppercross is delightful in every way.
You are kind, but there's furniture still to get, and the gardens, as you have seen, just begun.
With gardens, I am little expert.
Have you time for tea, Captain Wentworth?
I think not. No, I hear your husband's hounds. He is very eager for the shoot.
Wentworth!
He would hunt, Captain, were I swollen with fever.
Now that you must give me liberty to doubt. Excuse me.
It is over. The West is over. Really, this agitation is absurd. 8 years have passed.
Well, that was not quite the thing. Captain Wentworth is not very gallant by you, Anne, though he was so attentive to me. I asked him what he thought of you, and he said you were so altered he would not have known you again.
Doubtless it is so.
Men are so preoccupied when a hunt is planned. Charles barely knows a woman is in the room. Still, the captain said last night it was now his object to marry. Louisa Musgrove quite caught her breath.
I am turned on to shore and fully intend to settle as soon as I might be properly tempted. With all the speed which a clear head and quick taste will allow, anybody between 17 and 30 may have me for the asking. A few smiles, a few compliments to the navy, and I am a lost man. A strong mind with sweet manner
makes the first and last of my description. Well, a strong mind removes all Musgroves of consideration.
Altered beyond his knowledge. Doubtless it is so, and I can take no revenge, for he is not altered, or not for the worse. He spoke what he felt. He has not forgiven me. I gave him up to oblige others.
Now move to the Crofts.
Yes, there is news, sister. Charles Hayter, nephew to Mrs. Musgrove, is returned, between whom and Henrietta there had been a considerable appearance of attachment previous to Captain Wentworth's introduction, and I think he now finds Captain Wentworth much in the way.
I know Charles Hayter to be both amiable and pleasing. Henrietta would do well. Has Henrietta found favour with Captain Wentworth?
I cannot say which of the two sisters are preferred. Henrietta's perhaps the prettiest, and Louisa the higher spirits. Charles gives it for Louisa, and I the other. Either match would be extremely delightful. You look pale, sister.
Do I?
Terrible shooting. I'd best stay at home.
We speak of the Musgrove sisters' prospects.
Captain Wentworth, eh? Observed of all observers. One never seen a more pleasanter man in all my life. Can't have made less than £20,000 by the war. Capital match for either, Miss Musgrove. You should enter the list if you don't mind, Anne. You're not too old, you know.
And what if he should rise to honours? If he should be made a baronet? Lady Wentworth sounds very well. I say Henrietta is preferred. Certainly Charles Hayter is no match.
Good shot, though.
Pray, who is Charles Hayter? Nothing but a country curate, a most unfit match for a Musgrove of Uppercross.
An elder son, though. When my uncle dies, Hayter steps into a very pretty property. 250 acres plus the farm at Taunton. No, Henrietta might do worse. And if she has him and Louisa can get Captain Wentworth, I shall be well satisfied.
Charles may say what he pleases, but should Henrietta marry Charles Hayter, it would be a very bad thing for her, and still worse for me.
Dear women.
Henrietta took hardly any notice of Charles Hayter yesterday, and quite glued herself to the captain. I say Henrietta shall have him, and you, Anne, shall assist me.
Oh, please excuse my coming in like this. I thought...
May I be of some assistance? Will you sit down?
I thought the Miss Musgroves had been here. Mrs. Musgrove told me.
They're upstairs with my sister, and will be down in a few moments, I dare say.
The little boy improves, I hope.
Yes, he does. Yes. Will you not sit down? The others will be here presently.
Sit down, of course. Very kind of you.
Yes.
Yes.
Captain Wentworth, I hope my presence here does not in any way discomfort you.
Certainly not. In no way whatever. No.
I'm glad.
And my presence, Miss Elliot?
It is, of course, welcome.
Yes, I think Father Cosley settled in Bath. Camden Place becomes a man of consequence. Indeed, we are quite sought after. There are perpetually cards left by people of whom we know nothing.
It is well to hear Father's comfort spoken of. Have you come up upon necessity?
Father left the blue coat with gold buttons, but far worse, he is without his copy of the peerage and cannot know who is worth speaking to.
Father considers the blessing of beauty as inferior only to the blessing of baronetcy.
Call you are Father Vane?
I call him only a dedicated reader of the peerage.
I passed that by, sister, as you are so seldom saucy. Now, tell me of Captain Wentworth.
Then what would I have to say of him?
Oh, come. Mary might have been away at school, but I was partner to all that transpired.
8 years have passed, Elizabeth.
And he returns.
To see his sister?
No man puts himself out 200 miles for a sister.
He thinks me wretchedly altered and does not forgive me. I used him ill, deserted and disappointed him, and worse, showed a feebleness of character in doing so.
What agitation?
My agitation is only your insistence. He has a heart for either of the Miss Musgroves, if only they could catch it.
They have neither your understanding nor your rank. Though his family is inconsiderable, he has returned with a fortune. Consider carefully.
What is it you suggest?
You are 27. I absolve you of any feelings of my precedence as eldest. I am satisfied as I am.
Are you, Elizabeth?
I have said.
And do you never think of our cousin, William Elliot?
It was father who put him forward. He was invited to summer at Kellinich, and though expected, never came. Instead of following the line marked out for the heir to the house of the Elliot, he purchased independence by inviting himself to a rich woman of inferior birth. I would not give 2 pins for him. As to Captain Wentworth,
There is, sister, nothing to consider.
Poor Charles Hayter, feeling very much slighted by Henrietta, has quit the field, and she, shameless, nearly falls out the window hoping the captain will hove into view.
Oh, I hope we do not interrupt.
Not at all.
Well, we have only stopped to say that we are going to walk.
A walk would be quite restoring.
A very long
walk.
Very long.
We had not solicited you, as your health has been in question.
Am I not supposed to be a good walker?
Not at all, but
I should like to join you very much.
How lovely.
Will you join us as well, Miss Anne?
You are very cordial to inquire. Perhaps, Mary, I might be useful if there was a turning back.
There will be no turning back on my account.
Hello, we are only in retreat at my fool's insistence at taking out 3 young dogs who have spoiled the sport.
The weather itself has been pleasure enough.
We are just about to set out on a very long walk.
Very long.
And do the ladies solicit company?
We should like that above all things.
Capital. We have the time, strength, and spirits available. Do we not, Wentworth?
As the ladies request.
Mary, you must decide.
A walk to Winthrop would be just the thing.
Winthrop? Must it be to Winthrop?
Is not Charles Hayter in Winthrop?
That is most certainly not my meaning.
And most certainly not my supposition. Let us set forth, ladies and gentlemen, as the wind takes us.
Glorious weather. The Admiral and my sister have their carriage out this morning. I wonder where they will turn it over today.
The Admiral drives very wayward indeed.
Over they go, and my sister makes nothing of it. She would as lief be tossed out as not.
If I loved a man as she loves the Admiral, I would always be with him. And I would rather be overturned by him than driven safely by anyone else.
Nonsense.
I honor your sentiment, Miss Louisa.
Bless me, we have come to Winthrop already.
Well done.
Come, we shall turn back, as I am excessively tired.
Must we?
I say, my aunt must be called on. Now we are so very near. You must come too, Mary.
Up that hill and back? You have a little concern for my poor health.
Bosh! The Musgrove girls and myself shall dash up, and the rest of the party should take shade for the moment.
Well, I shall say as Captain Wentworth is just in the midst of explaining canonry.
Well, I shall go.
Done. Come along, we shall do it at speed.
Captain, I will need all your courage, as I must gather nuts in the hedgerow, and I am told there are badgers.
I will sit on the step of that stile, as I am of no consequence to anyone.
I cannot bear that Henrietta should be frightened by a visit with Charles Hayter. What? Would I be turned back from doing a thing that I had determined to do? Indeed not. When a thing is to be done, I do it.
She should have turned back then, but for you?
One could say she needed studying.
Your sister is an amiable creature, but yours is the character of decision and firmness, I see. You must, Miss Musgrove, infuse your spirit in her. Let those who would be happy be firm.
How very wise you are, Captain Wentworth. On your instance, I would name Mary not firm, but willful.
And Anne Elliot?
Kind to all, but lacks the firmness to achieve. We do so wish that Charles had married Anne instead. You do know he wanted to marry her.
Did she refuse him?
Oh yes, certainly. Lady Russell, I think, would not allow it. I think it likely she will never marry. Now, it's a man's responsibility to marry, don't you think? You must come with me into the hedgerow and explain your views.
Well, it is seldom one hears one's character, but there is a curiosity of me in his manner.
The party returns and Charles Hayter with them. At a distance, I would venture Henrietta reconciled with him. Louisa, Captain! Louisa is now marked out for Wentworth. Nothing can be plainer.
Just see who we found! The very Charles Hayter himself!
Hello, all. I'm very glad to see you, I'll admit. Miss Henrietta will have nothing except I join the walking party. That is, if I do not intrude.
Forward to Uppercross. We shall have to look sharp to make the light last. We have arms enough for the ladies if Anne will share.
Yoo-hoo, yoo-hoo. Mary, Charles.
It is Mrs. Croft, I believe. Indeed, the Admiral's carriage is just there on the road and the upright.
The Admiral insists that I come down for you. He thinks the young ladies must feel in distress after such a tramp. However could you have done it?
How very kind of you, but I, for one, am quite sturdy enough for a walk.
Yes, quite.
And I.
Miss Elliot, I am sure you are tired. Do let us have the pleasure of taking you home. Here is excellent room for 3. I assure you, if we were all like you, I believe we might fit 4. You must indeed, you must.
The walk has been unreasonably far. Allow me to assist you to the carriage.
Thank you, Captain.
He certainly means to have one of the Musgrove girls. He's been running after them long enough to make up his mind. Aye, this comes of the peace. We sailors, Miss Elliot, cannot make long courtships in time of war. It's Johnny Jump Quick, I may tell you.
Miss Elliot, should we hear how quickly we came to an understanding, she would think us presumptuous.
Perhaps Wentworth hesitates, as he can't tell one for the other.
It was his hand that placed me in the carriage. His concern was for my fatigue. He does not forgive, but he cannot be unfeeling. Though becoming attached to another, he cannot see me suffer without giving relief. It is his warm and amiable heart.
I'm glad to hear about Henrietta and Charles Hayter, though how they converse I cannot imagine. Now speak to me of Captain Wentworth.
Well, he had a letter from his friend Captain Harville, settled at Lyme. He is not in good health since a severe wound 2 years ago, and Captain Wentworth is determined to go immediately. The young people, particularly Louisa, were wild to see Lyme, and a party to go thither is the consequence.
And that is all you can say of the captain?
We now move to Lyme.
Yawned out.
I do so love the sea. Do you not love the sea, Henrietta?
If there is bathing.
I am very fond of bathing. Do you bathe, Miss Elliot?
I do not.
No, it is a great lark when properly costumed.
See over there? That's Wentworth coming back with the Harville and Benwick.
Captain Benwick?
Benwick was Wentworth's first lieutenant at the Laconia, I believe. Was engaged to Captain Harville's sister. Poor fellow, and now mourns her loss. Died the preceding summer while he was at sea.
How horrible.
Deeply afflicted, of course. Quiet, retiring fellow, Wentworth said. Bit of a reader, actually.
We are now in Harville's small home.
Very small, I'm afraid, to accommodate so many. Leaves gentlemen standing.
Your home is very comfortable and distinct.
You have contrived some very pretty shelves.
There are a great many books. Can they all be read?
They are Benwick's, every one.
Havel is always about it here. He carpenters, makes toys for the children, and all else done, he mends his fishing nets. Jack of all trades, eh, Havel?
A bit, yes.
I cannot express my admiration and delight on the character of the Navy. Just see the brotherliness, openness, and uprightness. Sailors, I think, have more worth and warmth than any other set of men in England. They are most deserving of respect and love.
Exactly.
You are very generous to sit with me while the others walk, Miss Elliot.
Pleasure to begin an acquaintance with you, sir. I hope you're not oppressed by the presence of so many strangers.
It is good to be in the midst of life.
You are a young man of considerable taste in reading. I see principally poetry here.
Do you read poetry, Miss Elliot?
I do, yes. I've had the pleasure of Sir Walter Scott.
Have you? Have you indeed? It is very shocking when Clara is walled up alive.
But all comes well with marriage. Oh, what a tangled web we weave.
When we first practice to the sea. Do you prefer it to the Lady of the Lake?
I cannot keep Arthurian legends in my head.
Ah, but the critics were something cruel to his Marmion.
But the public very enthusiastic.
What pleasure to speak of poetry, Miss Elliot. Do you stay long?
Only a day, as Captain Wentworth describes it.
I am sorry to hear that.
I am bold to say I know your grief, sir. Poetry, I think, deepens our feelings. In your situation, I might suggest a larger allowance of prose in your daily study. Works of our best moralists, letters perhaps, memoirs of characters of worth. Might this not fortify the mind by the highest precepts and the strongest examples of moral and religious endurances?
You cannot know how grateful I am for the interest implied. Forgive me if I say that I have little faith in the efficacy of books on the grief that I suffer. Your hand is cool.
We are now on the beach.
Well, I see we have sought the morning like a school of fish. Wonderful fresh wind, is it not?
Good morning. Good morning, Miss Elliot. I was hoping today we might compare the merits of Sir Walter Scott in Lord Byron, for I am sure that we may not think exactly alike in the matter.
I believe I would wear Lord Byron's colours.
Ah, that will bear discussion.
Miss Elliot, you have done a good deed in making that poor fellow talk so much. I wish he could have such company oftener. It is bad for him, I know, to be shut up as he is. But what can we do? We cannot part.
No, that I can easily believe to be impossible. But we know what time does in every case of affliction. And you must remember, Captain Harville, that your friend may yet be called a young mourner. Only last summer, was it not?
Only June.
And not known to him, even then?
Not till his ship, the Grappler, lay in Portsmouth. No one dared go aboard to tell him. The Laconia, captained by Wentworth, was in Plymouth. Good fellow took leave, travelled day and night to Portsmouth, rowed off to the Grappler that instant, and never left the poor fellow for a week. No one else could have saved poor Benwick.
Hello down there. You shall see an act of daring as none have seen before. Captain Wentworth shall go down the stairs, and I will jump to him.
Don't be a silly fool, Louisa.
I say I shall. You must descend, sir. I command you. You are all my subjects, you know, and I must be obeyed. I say descend, sir.
I must advise against this, Louisa.
But I am determined I will. Catch me, sir.
No, sister!
My God!
What has happened?
Is all well, Wentworth?
Did he catch her?
She slipped from my grasp.
Has she lost consciousness?
I cannot bear it. Sister! Sister!
You must try her pulse, sir.
Yes, of course.
She is dead. She is dead.
Quiet, Mary.
She is killed.
Stop.
There is a pulse. Is there no one here to help me?
Go to him. I can support him myself. Leave me and go to him. Rub her hands, wet a handkerchief for her temples.
We have killed her.
Take your wife to a distance, Charles. He assaults.
Oh God, her father and her mother.
We must have a surgeon. It cannot wait.
This instant.
Wait, sir. Would it not be better that Captain Benwick go? You know where a surgeon is to be found.
Only 2 streets away.
I know the man.
She breathes. She moves her legs.
I cannot bear this.
She will recover.
You cannot know.
Your coat, sir, to support her head.
With presence of mind, all could have been prevented.
This is not your doing, Captain. You warned, but she was heedless. Are you faint, Mary?
Why would you think me faint?
What in heaven's name is to be done next?
She must be carried to the inn.
Oh, what must I do?
We'll attend her there.
I will carry her myself. Musgrove, see to the needs of the others.
And I must go with Captain Wentworth?
Yes, I will as well.
This situation is in hand. I think I will lead the way to the inn.
Stay with Mary, Charles.
Stop hovering, Charles.
But
I shall need to organize the nursing.
We are now at the doctor's.
All concerned are fully understand. The head has received a severe contusion, the left wrist a fracture, but I have seen many, many greater injuries overcome.
Thank God.
I will visit our patient again tomorrow. We are fortunate to have Miss Harvard as nurse. She has served me often. I wish you good day.
This is very relieving.
A girl at school fell and walked quite crooked afterwards.
Fortunately, that is not the case here. It is regrettable to put you to the trouble, Captain Harville, but the surgeon insists Louisa must remain here. I am unsure what other course to take.
This is no imposition. Mrs. Harville has arranged all. Captain Benwick agrees to a bed elsewhere, and the whole is settled. A rope bed for the children, and all quite comfortable.
well done, Harville.
The Navy victorious.
There is, at the moment, the necessity of conveying the news to Uppercross.
But how may my parents hear with least distress?
This must be decided without the loss of another minute. Musgrove, either you or I must go.
Charles must not leave Louisa.
Thus I must go. Mrs. Musgrove will wish to go to her children. But as to the rest, I think only one needs to assist by staying. There is surely no one so proper, so capable as Anne.
Well, this is a very great injustice. Why am I not as useful as Anne? Anne is nothing to Louisa, while she is my sister. It is too unkind, and you, Charles, must tell him so.
Well, yes. Point taken. A dilemma.
Mary shall stay, and I will go.
There, go, go. You have said you must not lose the moment. Louisa sits up, but is weak and her nerves susceptible. I cannot say when she may return.
Our Mary was quite the gadabout in Lyme.
Indeed not. I only went to Charmouth for the day and bathed there. I was by Louisa every hour else, quite indispensable.
Now Captain Benwick quite pines for Anne.
Really, Charles?
Captain Benwick is not entitled by birth or situation to be in love with an Elliot.
Eloquence, sweetness, beauty saw no end to your charms.
With his wife passing only last June, such a heart is little worth having. Is it, Lady Russell?
I must see Captain Benwick before I judge him.
Oh, he will come. I'll wager on it.
Any acquaintance of Anne's will always be welcome to me.
He is one of the dullest young men that ever lived. We once walked an hour and he only spoke of books.
I believe Lady Russell would be so pleased with his mind that she would soon see no deficiencies in his manners.
We're which way the wind blows, aye.
Oh, did I say, Lady Russell, that we caught sight of our cousin and Sir Walter's heir, Walter Elliot?
Of that gentleman, I have little wish to hear. He quite broke Elizabeth's heart when he abandoned your family to unite himself to a rich woman of inferior birth. He attempted to apology, and Sir Walter ceased acquaintance.
Does Captain Wentworth improve with Louisa's health?
And I do not speak of that captain. Let us rather discuss your preparations, Anne, to come with me to Bath.
Walter Elliot is now in Bath.
The Elliots assembled, eh?
You must have another pillow, Sir Walter.
You remember Mrs. Clay, Anne, a quite invaluable person.
Oh, Sir Walter.
Sees to my every comfort.
Mrs. Clay.
Your father is a very good man.
So, Camden Place, superiority of style, wouldn't you say?
All of Bath clamors to meet him.
But most important, you see, is your cousin, Walter Elliot. Has made assiduous endeavors of repair, eloquent apologies to your sister, great openness of conduct, and perfect solitude to be received again as a relative.
Visits almost every day.
Our former good understanding is completely reestablished, wouldn't you say, Elizabeth?
As you say, Father.
Is there not something more that immediately appears in Mr. Elliot after so many years in wishing a restoration?
Are you, Elizabeth, once again his object?
I see no such motive, I assure you.
There has been a glance or two, I think.
His eloquence and fashion do him honor. He has a good-shaped face and sensible eye, though I lament his jaw being very much underhung.
Very well observed, Sir Walter.
The men in Bath are unhandsome, and the women plain. One good face will be followed by 35 frights. Once counted 87 ladies go by, and none the least tolerable. Now, how is Mary looking? Last I saw her, she had a red nose.
Oh, beg pardon. Had I known the family gathered, I would not have allowed myself to be shown in.
Nonsense, sir. You know Lady Russell, of course. Elizabeth?
You will remember my younger sister, Anne.
She cannot be forgotten. I have beforehand made apologies for youthful error to your father and sister, and hope you will receive me as an acquaintance.
All at an even keel, sir.
Ah, a nobleman's forgiveness. I hope we may speak of Lyme, comparing opinions respecting that place certainly, but also of the harrowing events concerning Miss Louisa Musgrove.
May I believe to see that?
Indeed, I regret losing such an opportunity of paying my respects. I thought I glimpsed your company, but maintained the absurd practice of never inquiring of others on the principle of its being very ungenteel to be curious.
You possess the right, sir, to introduce yourself.
My rights with those in the family to whom I not made apologies for ill behavior were, you will agree, tenuous.
Done. Stamped and sealed, sir. The mistakes of 2 and 20 are made by every gentleman.
You are generous to a fault, sir. Now, Miss Anne, if you will, I must hear the whole of the accident.
More tea, Sir Walter?
Stop fussing and sit. You were looking very well, Mrs. Clay. How have you disappeared your freckles?
You are very bold, Sir Walter.
Nonsense. You looked all speckled, and now you're white as an egg.
If you must know, you terrible man, I have applied consent cream.
And a good thing, as you have remedied all and become quite worth looking at.
I hope I do not disturb.
Disturb what?
I really feel, Sir Walter, that now Miss Anne has come, I cannot suppose myself at all needed.
What?
That cannot be the reason, Mrs. Clay.
You will not, I say. You are not valued only to be useful. I say you are now a friend of the family. You have as yet seen nothing of Bath, and you shall give me opportunity of remedy.
To such a joint entreaties I can only yield.
Ah, Anne, let me look at you. You have very improved looks, my dear. Less thin in your person, and your complexion greatly improved.
Have you been using anything in particular?
No, nothing.
You might use consent. It has carried away all my freckles.
I will say his manners are a recommendation.
His good understanding, correct opinions, and Sir Walter's pleasure force me to revision. However, forgiveness is not a day's work, though I grant him steady, observant, moderate, and of amiable sensibility.
But do you not find this avid desire for reconciliation inconsistent?
Exactly. I was at first suspicious, but I do reflect it natural at a mature time of life that sensible persons would wish to be on good terms with the head of a family. Also, Sir Walter would not wish to wander the countryside in search of an heir.
But does he come for Elizabeth, do you think?
Elizabeth. I see. I think differently, but time will reveal.
Elizabeth, of course, must be first in my father's house, but a particularity of attention seems almost impossible. He has not been a widower 7 months.
His marriage had not been happy, but I grant him a rapid recovery after such a loss.
Well, I must not judge, and he is without question our pleasantest acquaintance in Bath.
Is he?
I do admit it is a great indulgence to talk now and then of lying.
I have such a lively wish to see her once again. On another note, I would wish to hear of Sir Walter's meeting with your recently arrived cousins, the esteemed Dowager Viscountess Dalrymple and her daughter. It seemed an agony as to how to introduce Sir Walter properly.
Your value for rank and connection I perceive greater than mine.
Family connections are always worth preserving, and good company always worth seeking.
Sir Walter was gratified to see the connection renewed, but the Viscountess had no superiority of manner, accomplishment, or even understanding.
The Viscountess and their daughter may be nothing in themselves, but they collect good company around them.
My idea of good company, Mr. Elliot, is the company of clever, well-informed people who have a great deal of conversation.
You are mistaken. That is not good company. That is the best. Birth and good manners are essential, but a little learning is by no means dangerous.
You do not satisfy, sir.
My dear cousin, you have a better right to be fastidious than almost any other woman I know. But will it make you happy? Will it not be wiser to enjoy the advantages of the connection as far as possible? Rank is rank, and you being known to the related to them will have its use in fixing our family and that degree of consideration we all wish for.
But it does vex me that we should be so solicitous to have the relationship acknowledged, which we may be very sure is a matter of perfect indifference to them.
Sir Walter Elliot and his family will always be worth knowing.
I am too proud to enjoy a welcome which depends so entirely upon place.
Bravo! I love your indignation, and your thoughts I find always intriguing. But here, you are in Bath, and the object is to be established with all the credit and dignity which ought to belong to Sir Walter Elliot. We must feel that every addition to your father's society, among his equals and superiors, may be of use in diverting his thoughts from those who are beneath him. Do you smile at my ideas?
I do, yes.
Very clearly said.
Do you take the carriage out in the rain? Where on earth are you off to?
I find I have an old schoolfellow in Bath, a Mrs. Smith. She married a man of fortune, but is now a widower and poor. You must excuse me, father. She expects me.
Expects you where?
Westgate Buildings.
Westgate Buildings? And who is Miss Anne Elliot to be visiting Westgate Buildings? And what is her attraction? Upon my word, you have the most extraordinary taste. Everything that revolts other people, low company, paltry rooms, foul air, and disgusting associates are invited to you. But surely you may put off this old lady till tomorrow. She's not so near her end, I presume, but that she may hope to see another day.
I do not think I can put off my engagement, father, because it is the only evening for some time which will at once suit her and myself.
But what does Lady Russell think of this acquaintance?
She sees nothing to blame of it. On the contrary, she approves, and has generally taken me when I have called on Mrs. Smith. Goodbye, father.
Westgate Buildings.
I have come down for 2 days, though I am very far from well. There is business concerning Henrietta's marriage to Charles Hayter, which I could not well avoid. You know my feelings on that matter. Between ourselves, I think it a great pity Henrietta did not remain at Lyme as long as Louisa. It would have kept her a little more out of the way.
They seem most compatible.
2 fools do not make 1 wise man. I hear you are much seen with Walter Elliot.
This is a great exaggeration, sister.
Yes, I'm sure, but...
A great exaggeration.
How you protest.
Oh, really?
Now for Louisa.
She continues improvement, I hope.
I will say that which will astonish you not a little.
Oh dear.
Nothing more nor less than Captain Benwick being in love with her.
Captain Benwick?
It is all settled between them, and he has an answer from Mr. Musgrove.
I had no hint of it.
Nor I. We are all very well pleased, however, for though it is not equal to her marrying Captain Wentworth, it is infinitely better than Charles Hayter. You seem quite pleased, sister. I had thought otherwise, for we supposed Captain Benwick an admirer of yours.
Indeed not. Or at least never beyond the frame of friendship. I can only find it very wonderful, though surprising. Louisa is so high-spirited, and he...
Dejected, thinking, feeling, reading. I suppose any tolerable pleasing young woman who listened and seemed to feel for him would have received the same compliment.
Well, Louisa did have a fine naval fervour to begin with. Perhaps he will gain in cheerfulness, and she will read Lord Byron.
Very saucy, sister. But Louisa Musgrove, a person of literacy, taste, and sentimental reflection, must amuse. I will say, I regret Captain Wentworth free, and we have no one to offer him.
Captain Benwick and Louisa Musgrove. I had never in my life been more astonished. How can I preserve an air of calm and sense where this is almost too wonderful for belief? It is only with the greatest effort I could remain in the room and answer common questions.
Ah,
Oh, Captain Wentworth.
Miss Elliot, I have come to Bath.
You have?
May I offer my services in assisting you to your carriage?
I prefer walking.
But the rain comes on.
Nothing that I regard.
Though I arrived only yesterday, I have equipped myself.
I am only waiting for a cousin, William Walter Elliot. He has only stepped into the shop.
I am aware of the gentleman.
Are you?
A captain of my acquaintance, is brother to his recently deceased wife.
That loss is now months past.
Is he still mourning then?
Oh, I am grieved to have left you in the weather.
Mr. Walter Elliot, Captain Wentworth.
Ah, known to all as a fighting captain who brings great honor to the crown. You will excuse us, sir. I must see to the lady. Perhaps we will meet again at the concert of the Viscountess?
Perhaps.
Do you enjoy music, Captain?
I do.
We are now at Mrs. Smith's house.
Your eyes, Anne, inform me that you were in most agreeable company last night. Pray, is Mr. Elliot aware of your acquaintance with me? Does he know that I'm in Bath?
Mr. Elliot? Are you acquainted with Mr. Elliot?
A good deal once, but it is worn out now. But you, Anne, may I offer you my congratulations?
Perhaps you consider me as having a higher claim on Mr. Elliot than is the case.
I see I am premature, but soon perhaps?
I am not going to marry Mr. Elliot. I should like to know why you imagine I am.
Of course, every man is refused until he offers, but where can you look for a more suitable match?
Mr. Elliot's wife has not been dead much above half a year. He ought not to be paying address.
Some time should pass, I quite agree. But then it should be quite an agreeable connection. Mr. Elliot has the sense to value such a woman. Your peace then will not be shipwrecked as mine has been.
Mr. Elliot has not a share in whatever pleasure last night's concert might afford. It was another gentleman.
I have presumed.
Were you and Mr. Elliot acquainted?
Intimately. I beg your pardon for my answers. I have been uncertain. One does not want to make mischief. I feel I must.
You wish to speak of Mr. Elliot?
May I speak of his character?
I would be very glad to hear it.
He is a man without heart of conscience, a disgusting, wary, cold-blooded being who thinks only of his self-interest, and for that he would undertake any cruelty and any treachery. He has no feeling for others. He is black at heart.
I'm astonished.
I allow I am angry, but facts will speak. My husband trusted and loved him. He had always a home with us. My poor William's purse has always been open to him. You are not yet 20.
This is the very period of Mr. Elliot's life which has always excited my particular curiosity. Why should he suddenly slight my father's acquaintance, as he did?
He had, at that period of his life, but one object in view, to make his fortune by marriage, and I felt he might better the one your family represented. That was his motive.
And in that time, you sometimes spoke of me to Mr. Elliot?
To be sure I did, and well I spoke.
He said last night that he did hear of me. I could not comprehend how. Mr. Elliot then only married for money.
She was very young, but of not known family.
There is virtue beyond family.
Money. Money was all he wanted. Her father was a glacier, her grandfather a butcher, but their fortune was made in trade. She was a fine woman, but that was not the attraction. Other than Kellynch, the honor of Sir Walter he held cheap. May I share with you a correspondence?
If there is no other way.
None but opinion.
Oh, you are alone?
I have got rid of Sir Walter and his brood. They have gone back to Kellynch, and his mace made me swear to his visit this summer. But my first visit to Kellynch will be with a surveyor, to tell me how to bring it with the best advantage to auction. The baronet is not unlikely to marry again. He is quite fool enough. I wish I had any name but Elliot. I'm sick of it. It shows you the man.
This is proof undoubtedly. I must assume he has done you harm.
Prior to his marriage, he borrowed much from my late husband without repayment. He took from us, secretly, title of land in the East Indies that had been passed down from my husband's family. and then lost these documents through his gambling. I solicited repayment without answer. My husband's death, hounded by creditors and relentless worry. I lay at Mr. Elliot's feet.
This is beyond all. But why does he seek acquaintance with our family now?
Mr. Elliot talks unreservedly to his friend Colonel Wallace, and Colonel Wallace's wife talks to me. Time has worked a very material change in Mr. Elliot's opinions. Upon points of blood, he has turned about. Having long had as much money as he can spend, he now desires to be Sir Walter. His path is to marry you, Anne.
There is always something offensive in the details of such conduct.
His fear is certain, Mrs. Clay, a lady, I believe, your father's household, a clever, insinuating woman who means to be Lady Elliot. He plays double game with her, Colonel Wallace says.
What sort of double game?
He shows an interest that he would distract her from your father, for a marriage would lay waste his plan.
That my poor father should find himself in such a web. Mrs. Smith, knowing Walter Elliot's history as you do, I must question your recommending him and praising him to me.
Colonel Wallace was told you were secretly engaged to him.
But this is false.
And thus I could no more speak the truth of him than if he had been your husband. I believe now he truly loves, and with your gifts might be reformed. When you made clear you were not promised, I was free to speak.
If you have not saved me, you give me armor against his plots. I can just acknowledge within myself being persuaded by Lady Russell to lend me the letter speaking of our family. I guarantee its safe return.
I will, yes. It might benefit your father.
I thank you from my heart. I will call that you may hear the resolution. Mercifully escaped. It is very welcome that here is no longer anything of tenderness due to him. My knowledge of him is a reward indeed.
I have got rid of Sir Walter and his brood. They have gone back to Kellynch and made me swear to visit this summer. But my first visit to Kellynch will be with a surveyor to tell me how to bring it with the best advantage to auction. The baronet is not unlikely to marry again. He is quite fool enough. Oh, you are alone?
I am.
I intrude. Your father had very kindly requested I come round this afternoon. More specifically, the invitation was from your sister on your father's behalf. He is not at home, then?
He is delayed by friends.
Ah, he has many friends. Were it suitable, I would enjoy your company till he returns.
It is not suitable, Mr. Elliot. I was yesterday at Mrs. Smith's. She was of your acquaintance, I think, in times past.
Some years ago, I did not know her to be in Bath.
She lives, because of her health, a constrained life, and since the death of her husband, an impoverished one.
I am sorry to hear of it.
She'll be glad of your concerns. There are matters with Mrs. Smith that ask for resolution. Mr. Elliot, Mrs. Smith has given me this letter in your own hand, which makes clear your feelings as they concern this family.
This is a private correspondence.
No longer. Mrs. Smith, aware of your addresses to me, felt there was much I did not know of you.
This letter is 10 years old. It was a very different time, and I a very different person.
Yes, you take new interest in being Lord of Kellynch.
Should you deal in hearsay, Anne?
I should not, no. But the maneuvers of selfishness and duplicity must be ever revolting. There is more, sir. But I may say I have heard nothing which surprises me. My family, drawn in by you, would be shocked by such a representation, but I have never been satisfied. I have always wished some other motive for your conduct than has appeared. Not Mrs. Smith, but another has provided for it. I believe you to be a disingenuous, artificial, worldly man who has never had any better principles than selfishness.
But since I have known you, Anne.
Sir, it is not my place to deny you my father's company, but I will detain you no longer. That, Mr. Elliot, this letter will enforce.
Mr. Elliot, I had not known you arrived.
Good day, sir.
I must speak with you.
Sister,
you surprised me.
You will pardon me, but I have overheard your last words with Mr. Elliot.
I am glad. He has treated you ill in the past and disclaims us all.
I had every hope that you might fare better.
He has only seen me, Elizabeth, as an assistance to his ambitions. I have always felt that in Mr. Elliot there was much to be withheld. You read the truth of his nature.
He shall not have Kellynch.
No, you shall.
I hope in the future, sister, our way of knowing each other may be amended.
There is another shop quite near the carriage repair.
But that is at a remove, and I do not feel my best.
Shall I take you home, Mary, and let the rest proceed?
I have not said a word about being taken home. Sister, we are in despair of proper lace.
There is a nice shop near the carriage repair.
Yes, I know.
Good morning, Miss Elliot.
One does not often see gentlemen in the shops.
One must educate oneself to aspire to the domestic realm.
Rather good, Wentworth.
I had not heard, sir, that you were one of the party.
Told forth by Harville, you see.
A word, sister? Elizabeth came to us at the inn very early, and says a Colonel Wallace, whom father knows, reports Mrs. Clegg gone off to London with Walter Elliot.
Mary, we are off to the shops.
Oh,
Beg pardon, I have startled you.
not at all.
You are enjoying Bath and its entertainments, I hope.
There's much to see, but I am not a card player.
You were formerly, I know, but time makes many changes.
I know I am perceived as greatly changed.
Any change I might perceive, I admire. We should rejoin the party lest they grow concerned.
Yes. I must be calm and leave things to take their course. And yet, if neither acts, we are not boy and girl to be dancing round each other, misled by every moment's inadvertence and wantonly avoiding our own happiness by letting the moment pass.
We are now in the White Horse Inn.
I am glad to have found you still at the inn. I was delayed by necessary conversation with Elizabeth.
There is great to-do-ment. Father is in a perfect pet, not only over Mrs. Clay's abandonment, but a letter of Walter Elliot's whose contents were conveyed to him by Lady Russell. Father insists he shall disinherit him.
Yes, I know the letter.
Well, no one puts themselves out to inform me. Walter Elliot is a perfect scandal. I must out, as someone must join Henrietta. Really, I simply do everything.
Henrietta has left me, Anne, with the strictest injunction to keep you here till she returns.
We will write the letter we were talking of just now. Harville, if you will give me the materials.
Charles Hayter, you see, was quite wild about marriage, and Henrietta just as bad, so we thought we had better make the best of it. I think anything better than a long engagement. It is what all parents should prevent as far as they can.
Miss Elliot, I hope I do not disturb your thoughts.
Not at all.
This miniature painting, do you know who it is?
Certainly, Captain Benwick.
Do you guess who it is for? It was not down from Miss Musgrove. This was drawn by a clever German artist at the Cape. Benwick was bringing it home for my poor sister. I now have the charge of getting it set for another. Captain Wentworth undertakes the necessary letter. Poor Fanny, she would not have forgotten him so soon.
It would not be the nature of any woman who truly loved.
Do you claim that for your sex?
It is perhaps our fate rather than our merit. We live at home, quiet, confined, and our feelings prey on us. You have always a profession, pursuits, business of some sort or other, to take you back into the world immediately, and continual occupation and change soon weakens impressions.
But such an assertion does not apply to Benwick. He has not been forced upon any exertion. He has lived quietly among a little family circle.
But what shall we say now of Captain Harville? If the change be not from outward circumstances, it must be from within. It is then man's nature which is done for Captain Benwick.
I will not allow it to be more man's nature than woman's to forget those they have loved. I believe the reverse. As our bodies are the strongest, so are our feelings, capable of riding out the heaviest weather.
But the same spirit of analogy will authorize me to assert ours are the more tender. Man is more robust than woman, but he is not longer lived, which exactly explains my view of the nature of their attachments. You have privations, dangers, hardships to struggle with. It would be too hard indeed if you suffered our feelings.
We shall never agree upon this question. Have you finished your letter?
A few more lines.
As you will. I'm in very good anchorage here. Now, dear antagonist.
Surely not.
All histories, stories, prose, and verse are against you. I do not think I ever opened a book in my life which has not something to say upon woman's inconstancy.
And all written by men. The pen has always been in their hands.
But how will we prove anything at all?
We never shall, and it does not admit of proof.
I speak, you know, only of such men as have hearts.
And I believe you capable of everything great and good in your married lives. All the privilege I claim for my own sex is that of loving the longest when hope is gone.
You are a good soul. There is no quarreling with you. And when I think of Benwick, my tongue is tied.
We must, I fear, part for my husband asked me to meet him on the hour. Will you come, Anne?
Must I not wait for Henrietta?
Of course you must. What foolishness on my part. Tell the dear girl I will return within 2 hours.
I've completed the necessary.
I hope, Miss Musgrove, we will meet again this evening.
Surely we will. Gentlemen, would you be so kind as to assist me with these packages to be shop returned? The carriage is not far.
A pleasure.
Of course.
In the other room only. I feel that we quite abandon you.
Not at all. Henrietta is always delightful company.
She will show you the dress, and I must have your opinion. To have 2 captains in attendance in a young girl's dream and an old woman is an old woman's triumph. Follow me, sirs.
I must speak to you. I cannot remain silent. You pierce my soul. I am half agony, half hope. Well, this is it. Oh.
Pray forgive me.
Have you forgotten something, Captain Wentworth?
Never. Tell me that I'm not too late, that such precious feelings are gone forever.
You speak of feelings in an earlier time?
I do.
The feelings, sir, remain.
And mine.
I dare not hope upon supposition.
You alone have brought me to Bath. For you alone, I think and plan. I had not waited so long. Could I have your feelings as I suppose you must have penetrated mine.
So we waited for each other.
Too good, too excellent creature. You do us justice indeed to believe there is true attachment and consistency among men. I must ask.
Yes.
Walter Elliot?
I have never seen your equal, sir, nor considered your inferior. But Louisa Musgrove?
I was responsible for the harm that came to her, and in discharging that responsibility by staying at her side, found I was considered by all an engaged man. While I did not care for her, I felt I must consider myself bound to her. I was then 6 weeks with my brother till at once released by the astonishing news of her engagement to Benwick. But I thought I hurried to Bath with only you in mind. All I saw convinced me you were engaged, and Lady Russell, the very person who had guided your refusal in the year of my misery, led me to think you out of reach. I had no reason to believe her of less authority now.
I am not and was not engaged, Captain. I have hoped only for you.
Thank heaven.
I should have thought that my manner to yourself might have spared you all of this.
Your manner might only have been the ease which your engagement to another man would give. How I regret my silence.
We are not, I think, Captain, born to be forthcoming.
If when I returned to England in year 4 of our separation and suffering might have been spared, I was too proud to ask again. What a seafaring fool!
I think, Captain, you must learn to brook being happier than you deserve.
By heavens, this moment is more tender, more tried, more
fixed in knowledge of each other's characters.
than when we had hopes.
More equal to act, more justified in acting.
Anne, wait till you see. Am I perhaps intruding?
Yes, you are.
Oh.
She has broken the chain of thought.
There is remedy.
All right, great. Everybody turn your videos back on. Cast. This will be our curtain call.
Wow.
Marvelous job, everyone. So much more fun than I envisioned that it could be on Zoom. Thanks again, everyone, so much for coming. I don't Cass, let's do a bow on screen. Can you do a bow from where you're sitting? Thank you very much. All right, wonderful. Have a great evening. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Peace out.
Bye, Mr. Trent. Bye, everybody.
Bye.